Okay, everybody's green light. I'd like to call the December 4, 2012 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners to order. And as always, we'll start, if you'll join me, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll pray with me. Thank you for the gifts and joys you've given us all. We appreciate the work that engages us in the eternal debate over right and wrong. Reward our responsibility to help the others that don't have the bountiful gifts that you've given us. Put your hand on us and help us understand and try to create justice where there's mistreatment, love for people that feel despised, compassion for people that are sad and frustrated, hope for people that are hopeless, and healing for people that are injured. Protect us from being hypocrites and experts, attention huggers, blamers, complainers, talkers, and just takers, lone rangers, excuse makers. Help us be righteous men and women, nitty-gritty doers, social risk takers, organizers, conservators, leaders, innovators. God, you've given us a lot of responsibility. Help us to meet the challenge and give us the abilities we need to be pleasing and do the right things and take care of people in this county. God, it's a pleasure to be up here with these new commissioners that want to succeed and want to do a good job so bad. Give them the insight how to do that and help us all work together for the betterment of the people we all represent. Amen. In accordance with the board's code of ethics, it's the duty of every board member to avoid actual and apparent conflicts of interest. Does any board member know of any known conflict of interest with respect to any matter that's coming before us tonight?
No.
All right. During the pre-session, there have been several changes to the agenda. First, on the consent agenda, we have pulled for future consideration the AB Tech Capital Project Ordinance under consent agenda. We have also continued the rezoning request at the airport project by Mr. Summey and his group. Are there any other changes to the agenda? I believe that's all we discussed.
Yes.
If not, is there a motion to adopt the agenda with those changes, including adoption of the consent agenda items other than the AB Tech Capital Projects Ordinance that will be brought up later?
Make a motion.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Belcher. Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a second by Commissioner King. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion passes 5-0. We have a board of 7 commissioners. We only have 5 tonight. There are 2 yet to be certified. This board, in both our organizational meeting and in our discussions among ourselves before this meeting, feel that it is inappropriate to make major decisions, to do major appointments to boards during the time that these 2 individuals, which represent well over a third of our county, don't have a voice and don't have a specific seat. For this reason, we have 5 tonight. We are looking forward to having the other 2, but right now that's in someone else's hands. So we're going to proceed with 5. And it's good to have the new commissioners here, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you, including returning Commissioner Jones. The next matter we have up is the summer food program update. We have Lynette Vaughn Hensley, the Child Nutrition Director of Buncombe County Schools, to give us an update on the program. Lynette, thank you for coming and tell us about the program.
Thank you for having me, Chairman Gant and members of the board. It is such a privilege to report to you and to the public about the success of our first ever summer child nutrition feeding program. Years ago, I talked with Carol Peterson and Holly Jones, and I said, it's my dream that someday we will have a summer feeding program in place. When free and reduced crossed 50%, the time we knew was now. And we began, it's almost like beginning and not knowing how many will come, how much money will it take. There were just so many different types of questions that we were facing. I knew we had to break even, and if we didn't, I knew I had to have some kind of support. You didn't see me, so we did pretty good. We began with a great kickoff, but the way we really began was the conversation I had with Fran Thigpen. She said, Lynette, will you be feeding any children this summer? And I said, well, what did you have in mind? She said, I was thinking it would be great if children who are coming to our pools, swimming pools, could have lunch. And so it began from there. Fran and Lynn Pegg worked closely with me, and I'm just so grateful for the support I got from them. They applied for a grant and received the grant, and that was for the publicity, and we had signage at every site we operated. And it was just beautiful, it was eye-catching, and really was good communication and a good way to publicize the program. We received a grant for $1,800 from No Kid Hungry, North Carolina. I knew immediately one of the greatest concerns would be transporting the meals and the cost of the gas and all that would be involved in that. When you look at Buncombe County, we're talking 657 square miles that we call Buncombe County. And our children are scattered throughout. And so we were able to curb the total cost of transportation by being able to receive that grant. We listened to the public, we listened to the staff, the child nutrition staff who managed, and they would tell us what the community was misunderstanding about our advertising. And we would immediately make changes, because what we wanted the public to know is anyone could come and receive the meals at the open site. We were able to provide employment to many Buncombe County Schools child nutrition managers. Normally they're unemployed for 2 months in the summer. And so this was wonderful for them, and they were thrilled to have employment. We, going in, we knew that we had to really keep tables and close tabs on the cost. We spent $141,132.56. The total amount we received was $140,919.39. We were within $213.17. Applause. That was, to me, amazing, given you have nothing to look at. You don't have a history. And I was skittish starting out. Some of the sites I closed rather quickly because they could not get enough kids coming to their site. But at one of the churches, when I said I'm going to have to close the lunch program if you don't get your numbers up, they went out and brought the children in. And so really, everyone participated in such a great way across Buncombe County. It was just amazing. We were blessed with Evelyn Charities picking up the $213.17. And I had fun with Bill Murdoch. He didn't know the amount, but he had committed to pick up the tab. And I said, oh, we're going to need a truck. A checkbook is not going to do it. We're going to have to go to Wells Fargo now. And when he heard $213, he was relieved. It was such a blessing and such a wonderful opportunity. One of our managers shared with the group when we were training for back to school that she said, now you guys know me, I'm always negative. She said, when I pulled the van up to one of the sites, a little boy was waiting. I got out of the van and he said, thank you so much for caring about us. And she said, well, what do you mean? He said, I moved here from another state and nobody really cared for us. And I love the meals that we get. So that is a tremendous reward for us. Every church, every organization, everyone that provided support for us is receiving a framed certificate of appreciation. And what it says is this certificate is awarded, in this case, to Buncombe County Board of Commissioners for your dedication and efforts that resulted in 53,309 meals and snacks that were served to our children, to our Buncombe County children, and that was July 11th through August 3rd, 2012. Dr. Baldwin signed it, as did I. By it being framed and you having it in a great location, each year we'll just update the frame because we want to grow those numbers, from now on. And this is a dream come true. I thank you for your support of our children, of your support of education and the child nutrition program. Chairman Gann, I'd like to present this, and then Fran Big Pen, I want to present one to Buncombe County Parks and Recreation. And we thank you so very much for your support.
I don't know anyone who worked harder than Lynette Vaughn Hensley to make this happen, and it has been her dream. I think we owe her a big round of applause because she worked this thing. And it was a pleasure to be out your opening, and Fran Thigpen, thank you so much for getting in there and helping this thing come about. And the school board worked hard on it. I know they were pretty active. And Evelyn, that's the way things get done, the partnerships. Thank you so much. That meant a lot. And we do have a moral obligation to take care of these kids. Got to do it.
Chairman Gann, I just want to, a thought came to my mind that during those dates, I cannot think of a meal that I did without unless it was on purpose. And for that reason, and if that reason alone, I salute you for what you did. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Super program. All right. Debbie Trumpy, we're going to have some public hearings, and Mike Frew is going to substitute for
Yeah, I'm just going to kick off in a little different manner, Mr. Chairman and Board, because this is the first public hearing of this type for a number of new members of the Commission. I thought I'd just kick off with, what it is you're doing when you're having a rezoning request. These are public hearings on land use decisions, and they're legislative decisions based on your judgment as to whether or not it would be reasonable in the public interest to make the zoning change. It's not a quasi-judicial hearing where you'd have sworn testimony or take evidence. You're just hearing from the public's input, the public's comments, and the board is free to take that or leave it. You're not expected to comment, of course. You each bring to the table and to the commission life experience, and that's often enough. But the public input is just a valuable part of the process to make sure you hear how neighbors and others feel. When you're listening to this, to the presentations, and you're making a determination for your vote as to whether or not it is reasonable in the public interest, some of the factors you might look at: is it compatible with the area, with the neighbors? Would it be a detriment or a benefit to the neighbors of the zoning in that particular area in the future? You don't look to the specific applicant or the specific property which is in question, because that owner may sell the property tomorrow. You have to remember that once you make a zoning change, that zoning change stays in place for that parcel until sometime in the future, if it's ever changed in the future. So it's a quilt that stays fast based on your determination of whether or not this zoning decision is appropriate. What we do in each of the zoning matters before the board today, they're supported by staff and receive the approval of most, if not all, of the planning board and the recommendations to this board for approval. Now, what we have done based on that is just draft resolutions that we would think in these situations where it's not too controversial, and it would have language to the effect that you find it reasonable and in the public interest and consistent with the Buncombe County Land Use Plan. Now, that language is not binding on the board. This board makes the final decision, but that's just, in most situations, we just give you that starting point. If for any reason the board is of a mind to deny a rezoning request, you would just say, I move to deny it, don't find it to be reasonable in the public interest or consistent with the land use plan, and we'd try to help you out with that if need be. So any questions, just give us a holler.
Thank you, Mr. Frew. Ms. Trumpy, tell us about these, start off with the request from Jesse Gardner, and tell us about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This first application is from Jesse Gardner, and it is to rezone 1.58 acres from R1 Single Family Residential District to NS Neighborhood Service District for tax lot pin 9688084768. The property is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Roland Road and US 70 Highway. The tract is currently undeveloped, and it's being used for recreational purposes as a BMX tract. The surrounding area is comprised of a mixture of uses. The south side of US 70 Highway has industrial and commercial development, and there is commercial service and employment zoning districts there. This property has residential uses directly adjacent to it on the west, but further west of this subject property are commercial uses and commercial service zoning. To the east and adjacent to this property on US 70 Highway are commercial uses and the neighborhood service district, which is the requested district for this property. The zoning is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, as the update indicates that the NS district is designed to allow for a mix of residential, commercial, business, and service uses in limited areas at key intersections leading to residential neighborhoods. Given that there's a wide variety of commercial uses in the area and the neighborhood service zoning is adjacent to this property, the requested neighborhood service zoning would be consistent with surrounding uses, reasonable, and in the public interest, and the Planning Department recommends approval. The County Planning Board held a public hearing on the application October the 1st. One person spoke against the proposed rezoning during public comment. He was representing the Sherwood Forest subdivision and presented a petition with 59 signatures representing 42 addresses in the subdivision opposing the application. The opposition was over concern over increased traffic within that neighborhood. The applicant at the meeting stated that there's no development plan at this time, but expects that access to the property would be off of US 70 and would not bring any increased traffic to that neighborhood in behind US 70. The planning board found the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the land use plan, reasonable and in the public interest, as the rezoning would allow for a commercial business in an area where there's a mix of residential, commercial, and business uses. And the planning board recommends approval in a vote of 7-1.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Trumpy before we begin our public hearing? Normally what we'll do is I like go ahead and ask any questions before, and then after we have the public hearing, have discussion or any further questions a second time in case something during the public hearing was brought up that brought some new questions to you. Any questions at this point? All right, well, let's go ahead and have our public hearing. Our normal rules are that we have 3 minutes to come up and talk about the situation, for or against, and we will look forward to hearing from the public. After the public hearing, we will make a decision on whether to grant the request or not, and then we'll go on to the next public hearing. We have 3 tonight. So I have 4:55. Let's begin the public hearing on the rezoning request of Jesse Gardner from R1 to NS. Any member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir. If you'll go up and give us your name and where you're from, where you live. And let me see the rules. If someone, I don't see a big group here, but the group rules are what now, Madam Clerk?
If you have 8 people, you speak for 8 people, you can have 10 minutes.
Okay. 8 people or more, they have to raise their hand, they get 10 minutes, but 3 minutes. And you can look at the indicator there. It should light up for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
and
you, sir.
Fellow commissioners. I'm actually the applicant, Jesse Gardner.
Okay.
I'm representing the landowner, which is Morgan, I believe it's Morgan Family Holdings. He's a client. Let me go back. I'm Jesse Gardner. I'm civil engineer with Civil Design Concepts. We're representing the landowner, Morgan Family Holdings. Our client purchased the property in around 1999. He develops convenience store locations and transports fuel. He has approximately 22 locations in western North Carolina. He has 7 locations in Buncombe County, and his corporate headquarters are also in Buncombe County. He has an employee base of about 100 employees inside Buncombe County. He purchased this property in 1999 with future intentions of developing it into his business. A couple months ago, we finally realized it was zoned residential. Got me involved. We had discussions with county staff, and we felt that the neighborhood service was the most reasonable request to rezone this property. We feel it also follows with a comprehensive master plan or comprehensive land use plan. Convenience stores are made to be convenient. They're made to be get off the road and back onto the road. We have approximately 300 linear feet of frontage along US 70 and access to a signal there at the intersection of Rowland Road and US 70. And so we would not anticipate sending any traffic to the adjacent neighborhood. During the planning board meeting, it sounded like a lot of their concerns were based off traffic due to the charter school routing drop-off and pick-up traffic through their neighborhood. So, for what that matters. But Mr. Morgan, the owner, is here. If we're to have any questions, we'll be glad to respond to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Okay. Any other public comment? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed at 5 o'clock. Any questions or discussion by the board? Is there a motion to approve the rezoning request?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
From the planning staff. I guess a question, in a situation like this, it's a 4-lane road and the property owner is requesting a zoning category that allows commercial use. Obviously, there's a lot of commercial use along a corridor like this. I guess the question I would have would be, under what circumstances would a piece of property that is zoned with a residential focus, in a situation like this, under what situations would a rezoning request like this be denied? Because it just, I guess just in various circumstances, I've seen requests like this come up and you think, well, it's on this corridor with a lot of commercial use already. I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of, under what circumstances would there be a negative recommendation on a rezoning like this? And if we can't come up with a good rationale for it, I guess sometimes I just wonder why there's a residential zoning designation in this type of situation in the first place. I know that's kind of a very high level question, maybe not even as focused on this particular property, but that's the question that comes to me when I look at a rezoning like this. I'm just curious if you have any high level thoughts on that, or specific thoughts as it relates to this particular request.
Well, generally, when we have a request like this, the recommendation is for an approval. If you've got a good bit of commercial uses around there, and if it's going to be adjacent to a like district. When we would not recommend approval is when it would be, could be seen by the courts as a spot zoning because it's surrounded by residential and would not be consistent with zoning districts that are located adjacent to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve it.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the request from Commissioner King. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Jones. Is there any further discussion by the commission? If not, all those in favor of the motion by Commissioner King say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The rezoning request is granted 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Moore. Next rezoning request comes from Carl Ricker Jr., and we'll hear Ms. Trumpy tell us about that one.
This application is to rezone 3.32 acres from R3 residential to commercial service district, and this is tax lot pin 9668768496. The subject property is located on the east side of Lower Grassy Branch Road, just north of Tunnel Road. The property is currently vacant. It has been graded out to grade level with Tunnel Road and is actually the back portion of a tract, the front portion which has been incorporated into the city of Asheville. The surrounding area is a mixture of uses, including mobile home parks, an apartment building, and commercial uses along Tunnel Road. The commercial uses along Tunnel Road are in the city of Asheville, and they have highway business district zoning. The current zoning request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, as the update indicates that CS is primarily intended to provide suitable locations for clustered commercial development to encourage concentration of commercial activity in those specified areas with access to major traffic arterials, to discourage strip commercial development, and to allow for suitable non-commercial land uses. Given the mix of uses in the area, the concentration of commercial uses along a major traffic arterial to the south, in the adjacent highway business zoning district, the requested commercial service zoning would be consistent with surrounding uses, reasonable and in the public interest, and the Planning Department recommends approval. The County Planning Board held a public hearing on this application on October the 1st. Two people spoke during public comment. They were asking questions about a potential development, but no one spoke against the rezoning. The Planning Board found that the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the land use plan, reasonable and in the public interest, as the area directly to the south is comprised of a concentration of commercial activity along a major traffic arterial, which is zoned highway business. The Planning Board recommended approval in a unanimous vote.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Trumpy about this request? All right. Then we'll go ahead and start the public hearing. I have 5:05. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on the Carl Ricker Jr. Rezoning request R3 to commercial service? Yes, sir. Mr. Ricker. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I'm okay.
Thank you and welcome to all the new members. I don't wish to sit in your seat. You're going to have 50% of the people mad at you all the time, so I guess that's the way politics are. I first moved on this property April the 1st, 1967. It's always been commercial property. And a very unique thing, it's one tax lot. There's almost 10 acres, but it's only one tax lot. And for some reason, the city of Asheville came through the middle of it. And it's always been utilized as a recreational vehicle or a car lot. And there was a question that arose from the last meeting about ground cover. And the reason I brought those pictures, it's very dense. There's a very dense cover between that lot and anything else. You literally can't see anything from the highway. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them for you. But
I have one question for you. Looking at the pictures that you gave us, and then looking at the map that they have, I'm assuming that this property is up on this hill.
the property goes all the way past top of the hill. Okay. And I also own all of the property to the eastbound side of it. I own most of the property all the way to the intersection of the interstate, exit 55, and that's all commercial. As well as there is a sawmill behind me, and it's zoned residential, which I don't quite understand that one either. But I don't guess I'm supposed to understand everything. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ricker. Any other members of the public wish to be heard? Mr. Summey?
Good evening, and thank you. I too want to welcome our new commission members. I'm Mike Summey. I own 6 of the properties joining Mr. Ricker's property that are just to the west of that. And I just want to put it on record that I have absolutely no objection to you rezoning his property.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments tonight? Any member of the public? All righty. If not, I have 5:07. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there any discussion or questions by any commissioner? Is there a motion someone wants to make?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning to commercial service district.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr.
Been a
Chairman?
motion by Commissioner Newman, a second by Commissioner King to grant the rezoning request by Mr. Ricker for R3 to commercial service. Is there any further? Oh, Ms. Trumpy?
I was just going to ask that within the motion that you had mentioned for the reasons given in your packet, that you would approve it.
Do we-
Reasonable and in the public interest and
And consistent with the land use plan.
Is that a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Everybody agreeable with that? All right.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, if you'll add that to the motion. Any further discussion? Thank you. All those in favor of granting the rezoning request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The rezoning request is granted 5-0. Do we need to go back and do the Gardner, do an amendment to that?
I think part of the confusion, just so you understand, we've tried to craft the resolutions that are a part of your agenda packet to incorporate all the necessary elements where if you'd move to approve for the reasons stated in our agenda packet, then it covers it automatically. If not, then it's always good to hear the magic words about reasonable in the public interest and consistent with the land use plan. But with it being in the agenda packet, it covers it from the first rezoning.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have final rezoning request from Mayfair Partners for various PIN numbers. So if you could tell us about that.
Mr. Chairman, this request is from Mayfair Partners to rezone 4 parcels. Tax lot pins 9629227650, lot 7443, lot 8397, and tax lot 9629320159. These 4 parcels total 5 acres, and they're requesting a rezoning from R1 single-family residential to the R2 residential district. The properties front Johnson School and Old County Home roads, and they currently contain Mill Creek condominium development, and that development is served by Mill Creek Loop. The area to the north and west of this subject property is in the county's jurisdiction and is zoned R1 and open use district. The area to the south and the east of the subject lies within the city of Asheville's jurisdiction and is zoned RM6. The RM6 district allows similar density and development types as is allowed in our R2 zoning district. The surrounding area is a mix of commercial and residential uses along Old County Home Road, with more intense commercial development to the east along New Leicester Highway. The requested zoning would be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, as the update indicates that higher density development, including multifamily residential units and planned unit developments, would be appropriate in the R2 zoning district. Given the mix of uses in the area and the adjacent RM6 zoning district, the requested R2 zoning would be consistent with surrounding uses, reasonable in the public interest. And the Planning Department recommends approval. The Planning Board held their public hearing on this application on November the 5th. One person spoke during the public comment session concerning possible stormwater runoff from the development. The applicant at that time stated that the development has a stormwater system in place and it complies with all county regulations. The Planning Board found that the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the land use plan, reasonable, and in the public interest, as the surrounding area includes higher density development and property zoned RM6 in the city of Asheville. And the Planning Board recommended approval in a unanimous vote.
Ms. Trumpy, was there any actual stormwater issues, or was it a concern there might be based on the topography?
Concerned that there might be. The person that spoke, we looked up their property and it's in the floodway, actually. But so she was concerned that any additional stormwater could have an impact, but the stormwater system is in place to keep post-development runoff to pre-development levels.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and have the public hearing on the Mayfield Partners request. I have 512. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on the Mayfield Partners rezoning request as outlined by Ms. Trumpy? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for your consideration. Just to give a little update on this project, I think this project was actually started prior to zoning.
Can you give your name and your...
I'm sorry, Greg Phillips.
Okay,
I am a member of Mayfair Partners and the
Thanks.
developer at Mill Creek. Like I said, this project was started prior to zoning, so I guess we kind of got caught in the middle, so to speak. Some time ago, and certainly it was never an official opinion, just in conversations with Jim Coleman, just conversation, you know, he said, Greg, certainly I think you've got a case for being grandfathered. And then as the new zoning director and I sort of had discussions, he said, well, it would certainly be cleaner just to go ahead and get it rezoned. And he said, that seems to be the thing to do here. So that's why we're here. A couple things that I would mention, not only I think will this matter to us, but back during the Wild West days of mortgage lending,
mortgage lenders never looked, particularly in a residential neighborhood, at what the zoning was. Now, everything's being more scrutinized, so there is a good chance that even one of my current owners could go to sell there, and have an issue of a lender saying your home is not in compliance with zoning. So, following that, I think we're actually the proud owner of stormwater system number 1 in Buncombe County, which was an education for everybody. So I don't think that's a concern. And this piece of property was certainly a train wreck when we got it. It was, an abandoned house, an abandoned mobile home, a lot of trash. I'll share briefly since I have a minute. Well, I got a call one day my guys working on the site said, "You've got to come see this." And of course, as a developer, that's kind of when your heart stops. And somewhere in the moving dirt there, they discovered no less than 1,000 liquor bottles on the site. So it was worth seeing. But anyway, I think we've done a good thing. Certainly, these homes have all sold under Buncombe County's affordable housing, and anything we would do there in the future, I'm sure, would be the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any other members of the public wish to be heard on this rezoning request? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed at 5:15. Is there any discussion among the board? Is there a motion to approve the rezoning request?
Make a
Chairman
motion.
Gant,
You go ahead. Oh, you're fine.
finding that this is a reasonable request in the public interest and consistent with our land use plan, I move approval.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner Jones, a second by Commissioner Belcher. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the rezoning request motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The request is approved. New business. We have, first of all, a resolution setting the time and date. We need a resolution for setting the time and date for the commissioner meetings. The resolution in our package is one that keeps what we have in place, which is holding the meeting the first and third Tuesday of every month at 4:30 in our new chambers on 200 College Street, with a pre-meeting workshop commencing at 4:15. We are required to set this so everybody knows where they can come talk to us. Any discussion, or is there a motion to adopt the time as we have?
I move
Been
to
doing it.
adopt the time as it is.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner King. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that, anytime we would get together, we would want to make sure that we have more than an ample time for the public to discuss whatever it is that they want to discuss. And I don't see where this, would interfere with that. So.
All right, sir.
I think the meeting schedule's fine. I mean, one just observation, if we're going to, it's December is the holidays. I'm generally fine with not having the next meeting, but then the next regularly scheduled meeting falls on the 1st of January, so that's being canceled. So, it's a long time until the next regularly scheduled meeting, and I'm sure generally Buncombe County can get along fine without us for that period of time. But, if there is any business that needs to be transacted in terms of, I don't know, whatever may come up that someone might actually need action from this governing body between now and then, there would be a process for the chairman to call a meeting if there's action that needs to be taken, so that we're not delaying, something that some constituents of ours may need some action on between now and that time.
Yes, sir. That is in our rules currently, and I think that I don't know if the manager can call a special meeting also. I know the chairman can.
The chairman can, and I think other board members can ask to have one called. If we had an emergency piece of business, we'd certainly have to do that, because it is a pretty good time till January 15th. So.
Great.
January 15th is going to be fun.
It is.
Yeah, we'll
It'll
have
be
a
a
full
long
day
night
that
that
day.
night.
Thank you. Good question, Commissioner. And I would just say that, again, we don't have two members. This is something we'd probably want to talk with our two new members when they are certified. But this seems to work well. We've been here a long time, and I guess when we have our retreat, probably the first part of the year, we could revisit this if something didn't work out with either the new members or anybody else. So is there a motion? Let's see, we've got a motion by Commissioner King. Is there a second?
I did that.
Commissioner Jones seconded, sorry.
Okay.
Any further discussion? I would just add one other thing, kind of a supplement to Commissioner Newman's comments. I think this board has expressed, and this is something we don't need to do tonight, but I think it is in the works, a desire to go out in the communities and get out in the neighborhoods a little bit instead of staying here. Even though this is a great facility, we want to get out. I know all the members of the board have expressed some interest there, so it may not be necessarily here. We may have special meetings or may have regular meetings outside this boardroom, and I don't think this precludes this. This just sets this as the default. Okay. Any further discussion, comments?
One other last thing, Mr. Chairman. I had heard some discussion about preferring to have it later because that's, when people get off work. And, certainly if we get everybody on the board and that ends up what we want to do, then, we don't have a problem working and staying. So, but to make sure that it's open for the public as long as needed, so.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of keeping the time and date as we have it now, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The resolution for keeping the time and date the same in our new chambers is approved. Next matter of business we have is setting the chairman and commissioner's salary. And this is something that is mandatory to do. Is that right?
I don't know if I'd phrase it that way. I mean, all compensation to the board expired by budget ordinance amendment in June by the prior commission. So some action would have to take place today. And I understand from the Human Resources Department, even if the board didn't want any money, they'd need to have a $1 compensation just to populate the fields and make sure the computer would work right.
All right, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would propose that we keep things the same, and I would make a motion that we maintain the same compensation schedule as the board had prior to our commissioning and our getting on. That would take into account the deduction that was made about a year. Let's see, how long ago was this?
It was early 2011, wasn't it?
About 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago. I would make the motion for two reasons. Well, actually 3 reasons. First of all, we have 7 commissioners. I think we've said that earlier. We have 5 that have been certified and seated. We've also, these commissioners, I'll tell you, have already put in an extraordinary amount of time. They have been in a retreat for 2 days last week. They've been going to educational sessions. They have been here most of the time, and in conversations, discussions, we're learning how this board is going to work. We're asking the new members to make a decision on what they're going to be paid without any benefit of knowing what the time commitments are. They don't know what boards they're going to be on. They don't know how much time the boards will take. We don't know about our community meetings. We don't know about the conferences, the places we're going to be going, the conversations with managers, staff, directors. And the salary and benefits for all 7 commissioners is 9/100ths% of our total budget. 9/100ths% is the cost of all 7 and benefits. Is that right? Is that the figure we came up with? So we need to do something. It's not fair to us. It's not. I would recommend that we continue this. Let everybody see what the time commitments are. let everybody see what the job is. Commissioner Jones and I have a 4-year head start. Commissioner Newman has good knowledge of wonderful service on the city council, but the rest of the commissioners don't. So I think in fairness to everybody, I would make the motion and just let things keep the way they were right before the election and the certification, and let things continue that way until someone wants to change it. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think you did make the point, again, that we have a third of the county not represented up here. And so that decision, if we tried to make a decision to cut the pay or anything such as that, we would not have any input from them. So for that reason, I support it also.
Any other comments?
This is a tricky one for me, obviously. I do think you made a good point about the folks having a feel for the workload prior to kind of making a compensation decision, and that seems really fair to me. And I brought this matter up during the budget because I continue to believe that's the appropriate time where we deal with all our expenditures and issues related to that. That was the rationale for my timing then. I continue to think that that's probably the appropriate time. This is forced upon us, frankly, a little unfairly, but it's the hand we're dealt, and I apologize to my new commissioners for having to make such an awkward, have an awkward moment in what should be a beginning that is a slow ramp up, and here we are. But this is where we are. So I think that it is fair for new folks, and particularly the folks that are yet to be at this table, to kind of have a learning curve. So I would ask that the amount that I put forward in May during the budget deliberations was as a starting place, was a point to begin a conversation. And so I would ask for openness to a potential conversation in the budget time going forward. That's the spirit that I initiated it, and in light of all that, I will be supportive of this deferred conversation, or determination, rather.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right, then we have a motion to continue the salaries as they were prior to the certification for the chairman, vice chair, and commissioners. We did not appoint a vice chair, again, deferring that until we have 7 members, so everyone has a say in that decision. I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries 5-0. We elected during we by consensus agreed not to do board appointments tonight in hopes that the next meeting we will have a 7-member board. The announcements: the next regular meeting of the board will be on January 15th, beginning at 4:30. We will have a pre-session prior to that. The December 18th meeting has been canceled. The commissioner meetings can be seen on BCTV Charter Cable Channel 2, ATT Uverse Channel 99, live on buncombecounty.org during the meetings, or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. We're now ready for public comment. We will have a closed session, I believe, after public comment. Is that right, Mr. Frew?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A4, an economic development matter, and just anticipate getting direction from the board as how to proceed with that one.
No action after.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The official county of the official business of the county is concluded. We now hold public comment. The time limit for any comment to our board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you may leave any questions along with your name, address, phone number, or email with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on any matters during public comment. This is your time to talk to us. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of the commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire board. Any polling of board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and to be respectful of everyone in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting, and the board reserves the right to deny public access and public address on any subject previously presented to the board. Any public comment tonight? Yes, sir, Mr. Yelton.
My name is Don Yelton, and I hope you take these comments in the spirit that they're given. These are beautiful surroundings, but you have some challenges here. I suggest that you actually have, at the next meeting, each one of you for a few minutes just come and sit out in the audience. Your lighting is horrible. What you're seeing on the screens, I'm sorry, David, you and Joe need to do something to your head up there so it won't reflect the lights so much. You can't see nothing, but it's unreal. And it also affects even, Holly, your hair looks great, but your face is dark. We can't see the faces. And I think that does take away from the audience out there. Also, I think you need to work on your microphones. Because when you're talking, now if you've got a loud voice like me, I don't have to have the mic. But David, when you turned your head a minute ago like this, you could not hear what you were saying out here. Because this room is so far back to the people. And while there was a question asked a minute ago of Debbie Trumpy, and Debbie normally has a good voice, but she probably needs to be closer to the mic all the time, because when she answered that question, you know what it reminded me of? The Buncombe County courtrooms where you can't hear the judge or nobody. And David, you know what that's like, especially if you're out in the courtroom. And so I think what you got is too nice and too pretty to let those little things take away from it. I would like to make a suggestion to you that you consider it your retreat. I know you tried one time to have the meetings late of a night and nobody came. I think, Wanda, you remember that? We moved the time later, but nobody would show up later, okay? That's been tried. The other thing, though, I think is extremely important is when you vote on an issue, other than a public hearing, you might want to consider 10 minutes or 12 minutes of public comment on that issue, rather than making public comment at the end of the meeting when what you say is nothing but a gripe session. You don't get the information on the decision you're making, so you need to do that. That was done a long time ago when Tom Sobel was the chairman. And you probably remember that, David. And that does add to the meeting. It makes it a little bit longer, but I'm sure Brandy Newman and Holly Jones don't care about long meetings at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yelton.
Mr. Chairman, if you give me just a moment, we are aware that there's some lighting problems in here and have been working on it pretty diligently since the last meeting, and we hope to have them fixed certainly before we meet again on the 15th.
Thank you.
And that is not the first time I've heard that, Mr. Yelton. So I actually brought it up myself. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I feel like a commissioner myself. I went to your retreat. Not saying that in a bragging way, but I learned a lot, and it's worthwhile. But the concern I have is if you can put your cameras where you've got them, and you look so little on those big cameras, what do you think I look like back there in the back in WLOS 13? WLOS 13 is complaining as well, but they hadn't voiced it. I'm voicing it for them, and I'm a pretty good photographer. And we need to have a place up front over here and move these chairs over and put the photographers and stuff right over here. There ain't that many of us. So I'd suggest that so we can get a good picture of you. Okay? Now, I'm going to hit the ground running here with two new commissioners, and I hope the others in the audience are listening as well. The STEM High School for Buncombe County has already been proposed last night of addition of $5 million. I want to point out to you commissioners that the Board of Education has already talked about the chemicals on that site, and they've had their little presentation. I've got it on videoed if you want to watch it. They never talked about the source of the problem up on the hill. That's Square D plant, the old one. Now, if you're going to talk about an issue and spend $5 million, it's going to come on down to the county commission level on this issue of money. In the future, if we're going to build a STEM high school and put millions of dollars in it, you better be considering from the state the source of the problem on the hill. Because we're going to be like a Chemtronic site, and we're going to be like the CTS site in a few more years with the way the water is traveling on that site. And when you put a school there, well, I'd say don't even consider putting a school there. So I'd like for you to take that in consideration. The other thing is the former CTS, the Chemtronic site in Bee Tree community. They're already got 3 plumes out there, additional since 2007. They've got a problem with a 4-inch pipeline coming off of the mountain into the sewer line with MSD problem that's clogging the line, and that's a new problem, and MSD's working on it right now, but I'm bringing it to your attention for the public to consider as well, because there's a lot of wells that have been added since the time of that 1984 beginning. We've got some serious problems. We met with EPA last night, and they reviewed some of these factors, and the community is getting together to talk about it. But as commissioners, I brought this to your attention. Now, the other thing I'd like for you commissioners to do is on all sites in Buncombe County, I'd like for you to update your library at Pack Memorial, because we have no problems, no information on any sites in Buncombe County except for 1 or 2 little discs over there on Chemtronics.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight? If not, is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Belcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner King. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will not be taking action when we come back. I believe you said. Okay. Then we'll go in closed session behind the door here. We leave these here, Kathy, are these ours? We take these?